โอเคครับโอเคครับ
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pinto Talk titled Hmong Studies in the United States, American, Asian, and Transnational. This Pinto Talk is organized by the Thai Studies Program of Pridi Banomyong International College. I'm Ornthicha Duangratana. It is my pleasure to be the moderator for this talk. Due to the COVID-19 situations as well as the new regulations, our attendees are online. However, we will be able to take questions through Zoom as well as through Facebook Live as well. So don't hesitate to send in any questions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you our guest speaker, Professor Baird. He is a professor of geography from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the USA. He has a PhD from the University of British Columbia and is presently the director of the Center of Southeast Asian Studies of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and also the coordinator of the Hmong Studies Consortium. He conducts many research in many areas of Southeast Asia and of course in Hmong studies. Some of his publications include the ties that bind, the role of Hmong social networks in developing small-scale rubber cultivation in Laos, the Hmongs in the Communist Party of Thailand, a transnational, transcultural, and gender relations transforming experience. And now I would like to welcome Professor Ian, and I hand over the floor.
Thank you. Okay, can we get the slides?
Slide.
Okay, thank you very much for that nice introduction. And thank you very much for the Pridi Banomyong International College for inviting me, and especially for the Dean and also Ajahn Chamwit Gaset Sili for recommending me to come. I'm very happy to be here. And today I'm going to give a talk about Hmong studies in the US. And typically I haven't done this talk before. I prepared this especially for this particular occasion because Ajahn Chanwit recommended that I do a talk about Hmong studies, and maybe people in Thailand are not that familiar with Hmong studies yet. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to do that. So I'm gonna do that today. Okay, let's see if I can get the slides to move. So the first thing I wanted to show you is this particular photograph. And this is a photograph of the Hmong New Year in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the United States in 2011. It's actually the stadium, if you can notice the ground there, it's the stadium that the Minnesota Vikings, the football stadium where they play professional American football. And the reason I wanted to show this was to demonstrate that Hmong culture and Hmong ways of doing things in the United States have become very mixed. You have, it's now mixing between traditional ways of Hmong doing things, like having the Hmong New Year, which is very important in Hmong culture, but also they're doing it at an American football stadium, which is obviously something that they did not do before when they were in Southeast Asia. And so I wanted to show this to sort of demonstrate that now Hmong, and this also applies to Hmong studies, has become very mixed, mixing, traditional aspects with new life in America. That this is not just you know, the Hmong people are changing like every other group of people, and so we need to understand that Hmong Americans bring aspects that are similar or the same as in Southeast Asia, but also new ideas and new ways of doing things that are related to their life in America. Okay, so I want to start by giving a little bit of background about Hmong America. And to start with, we have to talk about Laos. So, and we have to talk a little bit about the secret war in Laos. So the secret war in Laos occurred between 1962, after the Second Geneva Accords, when Laos became a neutral country. Officially, and there was not allowed to be any soldiers from other countries on Laos soil. And therefore, all the US soldiers that were there had to withdraw and had to leave Laos. But then once they left, they found that there were still Vietnamese soldiers in Lao territory, and so the US wanted to come back and support the Lao military and government. But they couldn't. They would be breaking the 1962 Geneva Accords if they did that. So they had to send the Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, to go to Laos to support the war effort there. And that's why they call it the secret war, because officially the Americans were not supposed to be there. But that's why they used the CIA. They could not send regular military to go there at that time. And the CIA provided training, and they provided money to support the Lao military, and they also set up special units called special guerrilla units in Laos to fight the war against the North Vietnamese and the Communist Pathet Lao. And this, in Military Region 2, which is in northeastern Laos, there are a large number of Hmong people. And this military region in the late 60s into the early 70s was commanded by General Vang Pao, was the commander of this region for the Royal Lao Army. And he was supported heavily by the CIA, and they created these special guerrilla units that were totally funded and trained with American support. And this particular photo shows General Vang Pao and also one of the Americans that was there working with the CIA to support the war effort. So this war effort went on from 1962 until 1975, when Laos became a communist country. And this is a photo of one of the American airplanes that was provided with a pilot, a Hmong pilot, in Military Region 2. And you can see the flag of the Lao government at that time, the three-headed elephant on the side of the airplane. And here is a picture of General Vang Pao together with Pop Buell, who was one of the Americans who worked very closely with the Hmong and with General Vang Pao in Military Region 2 to provide various types of development support to the Hmong at that time. And finally, in 1975, you can see this photo here is of all the Hmong officers that were working under General Vang Pao in Military Region 2. Finally, in 1975, on May 14th, General Vang Pao and a couple of thousand of his officers and other soldiers and their families were evacuated from Longjiang, which was the base area for Military Region 2, and they came to Thailand as political refugees. And between 1975 and the early 1990s, many other Hmong people also fled from Laos, fled from the communist country to come to Thailand, and ended up in various refugee camps in Thailand. Though the most important of those was Ban Vinai in Luri province, but they were also at Nong Khai camp in Nong Khai province. They were in Sok Tuang and Nam Yao, which are in Nam province. They were in Phak Tha, which is in Uttaradit province, and they were in Chiang Khong refugee camp, which is in Chiang Rai province. So the Hmong came across, they were at these refugee camps, and for quite a long time. And here's traditional Hmong embroidery showing the migration across the Mekong River. So you can see many of them had to swim across the Mekong River to come to Thailand, and they were escaping from the communists at that time, and many of them died trying to cross the Mekong River. It was a very traumatic experience for them. These were mountain people, so a lot of them couldn't swim very well and had a very difficult, but this is sort of showing visually how they came across to the refugee camps in Thailand. And you can see in the lower part of the picture some of the buses that were eventually used. They have the refugee camps there, and then the buses eventually took them to the international airport. And you can see in the lower left-hand corner an airplane with all the people getting onto that airplane, and that was one of the planes that would have come to the United States to bring these refugees, these political refugees from Thailand to the United States. Just before that, this is just showing you, this is Nong Khai refugee camp in the late 1970s, where a lot of Hmong, but also ethnically Lao and other ethnic group people were also at this refugee camp. So I'm just trying to change the... Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. So this is the most important refugee camp for the Hmong in Thailand, and that's Ban Vinai refugee camp in Luri province in Pak Chom district. And this had tens of thousands of Hmong people stayed here, and more than 100,000 passed through here over many years, from the 1975 up until it was closed in the early 1990s. And this camp is actually named after Vinai Sinuan, who is a Thai military figure who they named this camp after, and that's him actually opening up the refugee camp at that time. And then to the right you can see many Hmong refugees that were staying at Ban Vinai refugee camp. And here's a picture of many Hmong people also at Ban Vinai, and you can see some of them are wearing traditional Hmong clothing, and some of them are not. Some of them are wearing regular clothes from the market. But these are all Hmong people that were staying at Ban Vinai refugee camp. This picture would have been taken in the late 1970s. And here's a bunch of Hmong people doing some work at Ban Vinai refugee camp, in which they would build fish ponds, and many of them lived there for over a decade. And so many of them spent many years, and many Hmong children were born at this refugee camp as well. But it's important to understand that the Thai government did not recognize Hmong people from Laos who had children born in Thailand. They were not recognized as Thai citizens. They were in the refugee camp, and therefore they were not allowed to stay in Thailand. They only had two choices. One choice was to return to Laos, and the other choice was to come to what they call a third country. A third country is either France, Australia, the United States, Canada. Some also even went to Argentina But you had to, and I mean some secretly did stay in Thailand, but they were officially not allowed. So many children who were born in these refugee camps were officially considered to be from Laos, even though they'd never seen Laos before. And this is the Hmong New Year at Banomyong refugee camp in Thailand in the 1990s. And you can already see the Coca-Cola signs that were sponsoring that New Year at that time. But at the same time, many Hmong in Laos did not come to Thailand, and they stayed there, and many were involved in insurgent activities fighting against the Lao government and their Vietnamese allies. However, in 1979, the People's Republic of China had a big dispute with Vietnam and with Laos, and they also allowed many Hmong insurgents to come to China to receive military training and arms so they could come back to fight in Laos. And you may ask, these are mostly right-wing Hmong, why are they getting supported by Communist China? But at that time, the Chinese were willing to support because they had the same enemy, which was the Communist government in Laos and the Communist government in Vietnam. So this insurgent, and many also worked out of the refugee camps to support the insurgency as well. And many Hmong stayed many years in these camps, and their families would stay in the refugee camps, and sometimes the men would go to fight in Laos. And this happened from 1975 up until the early 1990s, when finally they closed the refugee camps, and also the Thai government policy changed. And especially General Chachai Chunawan adopted the policy called battlefields to marketplaces. And so the idea is that there would no longer be hostilities with the neighboring countries. And that came in 1989. So after 1989, the insurgency, which was supported first by the Chinese and also by the Thais, gradually went down, especially after they closed the refugee camps in 1992. But some Hmong remained in the forest to fight against the Lao government. And even now, there is still a small number of Hmong who remain in the forests in northern Laos fighting against the Lao government. But most of the Hmong have now come to Thailand, come to refugee camps, and gone to what we call third countries. And here is a picture of some of the insurgents that went to China. These are Hmong people that went to China, and then they came back, and they're wearing Chinese uniforms. And you might think that they're communist soldiers, but they're not. They're right-wing soldiers that are fighting against the communists. But they have received their uniforms and their weapons from China. And that's in 1983, this photo. And, many Hmong people stayed in these refugee camps for many, many years. And, like I said, many children were born there, and many had important experiences there. Here's a picture of the former Hmong head of the Banomyong refugee camp, Vermai, and a Thai local government official. And this is again, at an event at Banomyong refugee camp. And you can see the Hmong women in the back wearing their traditional outfits. And here's another picture of the next head after Vermai, the last head, Wang Shong, who was meeting with the governor of Luri province in the early 1990s. And then finally, everyone had to get on to the buses to go to the airport to come to the United States, and when the refugee camps closed. And this is actually a picture of one of my former students who finished his PhD in America when he was first getting his documentation to come to the United States. But this is the origin of Hmong America. These are over 250,000 Hmong political refugees came to the United States from Laos via Thailand between 1975 and the early 1990s. Okay? And they came as families. They were not just men or fighters, but whole families, old people, young people, men and women, all came together. And this is what created what we now call Hmong America. These are all political refugees from Laos that came through Thailand. So I thought it was very important for me to give you some understanding of this background. You know, they were immigrating to the United States, and you know, it wasn't easy for them. They didn't initially speak much English or any English. They were not familiar with the ways of the United States. The weather was very different. The food was very different. Society was different. And they did not really want to come to the United States, but they had no choice because they could not, they were afraid to go back to Laos, and that they could not stay in Thailand, so they have to go somewhere. And when the refugee camp closed, they have the choice, either go to Laos or come to the United States. And then there was one last group of Hmong that came in 2004, 2005, and that came from Thamgabok Temple in Saratburi province. And these were about 15,000 Hmong came from there, and they came to the United States at that time. And that was the last big group of Hmong refugees to come from Thailand. At this point right now, the Thai government is not allowing Hmong refugees to come to the United States because they're afraid that if they accept more refugees from Laos, then more and more will come to try to go to the United States. So right now, there is no Hmong refugees coming from Thailand to the United States. The last ones were about 16, 17 years ago. And these are where the Hmong people now live. According to the census of 2017, there is 309,564 Hmong people living in the United States. This is probably an underestimate because many people on the census may not have put down the correct name, or they might not have filled out the census. So it could be higher than that. And the most important states for Hmong people, you can see on this map, the first in terms of numbers is California, that has almost 100,000 Hmong. But the next most important is Minnesota, which has over 70,000. And the third most is Wisconsin, that has 55 or maybe closer to 60,000 people. And then you have North Carolina, you have some other, Michigan, Colorado, and you have also some Hmong moving to Alaska in the very cold northern part of the United States. You can see some other states as well. But I should emphasize that even though the most Hmong are in California, the center of Hmong America is not in California. Because California, the Hmong are not the most important Asian ethnic group. They are like, there's about 10 or more ethnic groups from Asia that have bigger numbers than the Hmong in California. So the Hmong are there in big numbers, but compared to other Asian Americans, they're not the most important group. The really center of Hmong America is in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Between those two states, they have about 130 or more thousand Hmong, which is more than California. And the important thing to remember is that in Minnesota and Wisconsin, the Hmong are the most important and the most, they have the highest numbers of Asian Americans. So if you see a person who looks Asian in Minnesota, most people will not think they are Chinese. They will think they are Hmong, because there are many more Hmong in Wisconsin and Minnesota compared to Chinese. More than Indians, more than Chinese, more than any other ethnic group. about 30% of all the Asian Americans in Wisconsin are Hmong. Chinese, only about 5%. So the chances are, if you see a person of Asian ethnicity in Wisconsin, they will be Hmong, not Chinese. So this is a very special situation, and Hmong are very well known in the Midwest of the United States because, especially Wisconsin and Minnesota. So you might ask, well, why did the Hmong go to Wisconsin and Minnesota? It's a very cold place. Why do they go there? Well, because there was a lot of sponsorship when they first came as refugees in these two states. So there were sponsors who were willing to take these Hmong families into their houses and help them out. And also these states provided support. There was a lot of factory jobs. The Hmong did not speak much English, so they needed to get jobs in places where they didn't need a lot of language. So there was a lot of employment there. And also there was a lot of support from the governments there early on to study English, to get work training, to get different kinds of support that they got. And then when some people went there, then when their relatives came, then they followed them. Because Hmong is a clan system. And so if you're a clan system, you go to stay with other members of your clan. And so it became, now Hmong is so important in the US that even you want to go to the ATM to get some money out of the ATM bank, you can do it in Hmong language. They will have Hmong language on the ATM. If you go to a hospital and you need translation in Hmong language, they will have a Hmong translator for you. So this is quite special. Hmong has become very important in the Midwest of the United States. So this is pictures of Hmong America. This is the New Year, the Hmong New Year on the right, carving a watermelon to celebrate the Hmong New Year. And this is a very typical picture in Wisconsin, a bunch of the Hmong leaders, clan leaders, meeting at one of the houses of the clan leaders in the summertime, sitting outside, taking a picture of the group. So this is the first generation. Most of these people would be soldiers when they were in Laos. They were part of the Secret War. They were soldiers in the Secret War, and now they are elders in America. And in the Hmong society, they have 18 different clans. And this is a picture of the 18 clan council, which they have in Minnesota, they have in California, they have in Wisconsin, which brings representatives of each of the clans together in a kind of grouping. This picture is from 2010. So, in the United States, we have two main dialects of Hmong being spoken. The majority are White Hmong, and there are also some Green Hmong. Sometimes they're also called Blue Hmong in Thailand. And those are the two main dialects of Hmong that are spoken. These are also the two dialects that are found in Thailand and also in Laos as well. And when the Hmong first came to the United States, they had quite low levels of formal education. Many of them had not been to school. They were from the mountains. They'd been involved in the war. They had a limited education when they first came to the United States. Initially, very few of them could speak English very well, so they had also limitation of language. And a lot of them initially had to get support from the government to survive. They had to get welfare. They had a lot of children too. But other people took up jobs in factories and also in agriculture, jobs that didn't need so much language or ability to speak English. And recently, many Hmong have become heavily involved in higher education. And we can see now that there are a large number of Hmong with PhDs, with master's degrees, doctors, and the Hmong have now increased their education quite a bit. and they're working in all kinds of different occupations, you know, the same as any other American. They work in all kinds of occupations. The other thing that has happened is the Hmong in America have gotten interested in veterans issues, so they are trying to make their place in the United States by emphasizing the fact that they fought for the Americans when they were in Laos. And so they don't want to be thought of as economic migrants. They want to be thought of as people that fought for America, and therefore they had to come to America once Laos became a communist country. And you can see the picture of General Vang Pao up on that photo. He has now passed away, you know, since 2011, but he is still kind of the hero of Hmong America. And he is considered to be, he was the only Hmong who became a general at that time. And these are all his soldiers who are still living in the United States, and they still celebrate him a lot. But, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the Hmong have become, you know, mixed between the United States and their traditional culture. You know, they're not, you know, they are changing like all other peoples. And this is an important photo that actually Tu Saiko Lee, who's a Hmong American rapper. He does hip-hop rap, and he is in this photo collaborating with his grandmother, who does traditional Hmong verse or spoken word, and they were working together to combine sort of the old world way of doing things of the Hmong and the new American way. And I really want to emphasize that there's kind of this generational difference. The new generation and the old generation are very different, but in this case they're collaborating together. You know, his grandmother did not speak English, and you know, he was doing more things in both English and Hmong. Actually, he's going to become my master student beginning in the fall. He'll be my new student. And this is one of the memorials they made for the war, the secret war in Laos. This is in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And they have created this with all the names and pictures of famous Hmong soldiers during the secret war to celebrate their you know, what they did. So they're really trying to emphasize their contribution to America. Because now they're living in America, they want America to recognize them for the contribution that they gave to the United States. Oh. But there is also, I don't want to say that there's no problems in amongst the Hmong society in the United States. There have been a lot of cases of racism in the Midwest where Hmong people have gone there and they have been treated unfairly by white people. There have been a lot of conflicts related to hunting, where Hmong people they like to hunt, and there's a lot of deer hunting in Wisconsin, and so they will go, and sometimes they will end up having conflict with white hunters. And there have been cases where Hmong hunters are being killed by white hunters, and cases where white hunters are being killed by Hmong hunters. So I don't want you to think that everything is wonderful. There's also a lot of racism, especially in rural areas, which are very white areas, and they're not used to people from Asia, and very big differences in culture, and sometimes this has led to conflict and misunderstandings. But Hmong America has also really grown up a lot, and these are three posters to give you an event of the type of events that the Hmong community in the United States is now organizing. The one on the left shows the Hmong New Year, which happens every year, and every different city where there's a lot of Hmong people, you will see this organized. There is an exhibition of the Hmong leaders from Laos. That's the second one. So they're celebrating their history, celebrating their culture, looking at the past, the leaders of the past. And then the third one is one about women's rights and the role of women in Hmong American women in the United States, because Hmong American women have now become very important figures in Hmong society and American society more generally. And this has been a big change from, you know, the situation in the past. And Hmong women have become very active in promoting their rights, and many have become professionals. They've done very well in education, and they're now really thriving, many of them in the United States. This is just three of many possible photos I could have shown you. So let me talk a little bit about Hmong in higher education. So as I mentioned before, when the Hmong people first came to the United States, they didn't have much education, and almost very few had ever been in any university before. And even now, compared to other Asian American groups, the Hmong still have a relatively low levels of higher education. 24% of Hmong people over the age of 25 now have a bachelor's degree, which is actually much lower than some other groups like Indian Americans or Chinese Americans. But it's a little bit higher than Cambodian Americans, which have 22%, and Lao Americans have only 16%. So the Hmong, you know, still have relatively low levels of higher education, but it's much higher than what it used to be. And you can see now that they're 8% ahead of ethnic Lao people. And now the Hmong people have also been gaining a lot of degrees, master's degrees, PhD degrees, you know, and this is, there's now, you know, hundreds of Hmong PhDs in America, in all kinds of different fields. And they've done very well in that regard. And you can see that more and more Hmong people are going into higher education, and I think we will see a much higher number of Hmong PhDs and master's degrees in the future. And one thing that's really changed is since the 2000s, Hmong studies in America has really expanded. And we can see now that many US universities now have, they're now granting Hmong or Hmong American studies minor degrees or certificates. So the universities now that have minor degrees in Hmong studies are Fresno State University in California, Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota, St. Catherine's University in St. Paul, Minnesota, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh now all have minor degrees in Hmong studies. And to my understanding, I think there are only minor degrees in Hmong studies in the United States. You cannot find any other country in the world that is giving minor degrees in Hmong studies. So this is just in the last number of years, and each of these universities has hired Hmong faculty members to become, to work in these programs. And we also now have some other Hmong scholarship in Hmong studies includes, we have the Journal of Hmong Studies, or the Hmong Studies Journal, which has now been going for 21 years, is based in St. Paul, Minnesota. We have a special Hmong archives, which includes all kinds of historical information. That's in St. Paul, Minnesota. We also have Hmong collections at Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota. We also have Hmong collections at the University of Wisconsin-Madison as well. And now we can see increasing numbers of hiring Hmong studies professors and academic staff in various universities, because there's a lot of Hmong students going to these universities, and they are demanding to have more involvement of Hmong studies. And so you can see that there's a lot of teaching also of Hmong language in many universities now. You can study in Wisconsin, for example. We teach 3 years of Hmong studies, Hmong language, in White Hmong, that you can take. And also there's more regular Hmong studies conferences now being organized by the Center of Hmong Studies at Concordia University in St. Paul, and also by the Hmong Studies Consortium at University of Wisconsin-Madison and University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and also St. Catherine's as well. And we can see now that many universities are teaching Hmong language. We can see that there's also a lot of research being done about Hmong scholarship in America related to Hmong studies. And what's really important is a lot of this research is being done by Hmong people themselves. It's not just that, like before, when you had outsiders doing research on Hmong people. What we see a lot now is the scholars are mainly Hmong themselves, who are studying about their own society. And they're studying about Hmong in America, but it's very transnational. Some of the research is about Hmong in America, some is transnational, some is about Hmong in Asia. So we see a real combination of different kinds of Hmong studies happening. So this is, we also see increasing numbers of Hmong study abroad programs. So for example, we have this Hmong studies in Thailand, where we bring Hmong students mainly from the United States to come and study in Hmong villages in Thailand to reconnect with the Hmong people there, to use Hmong language that they used from their families, to speak to other Hmong families. And so this is also, there's now many Hmong studies programs, Hmong study abroad programs in the United States. In fact, this last year there was even a student who did a whole master's degree just studying Hmong study abroad programs in the United States, because there are so many of them. I can't, explain all the things that Hmong do in relation to Hmong scholarship, but I want to give you a bit of sense of some of the important topics that Hmong studies are now involved in America. So a lot of people are interested in critical race theory. There's also a lot of research related to critiques of anti-Hmong American racism in the United States. There's a lot of research being done about Hmong American educational achievement and experiences. There's a lot of research being done about Hmong American religion and religious change. There's a lot of research being done about Hmong American women and violence against women. There's also a lot of research being done about Hmong American politics and advocacy in the United States. A lot of research about Hmong American health, because many Hmong Americans have health problems, and there have been a lot of study about that. And there's a lot of research being done about Hmong American remembrance and memory, and even about Hmong American literature, including poetry, which has now become very common. And many of these new Hmong American poets are writing in English, and also doing poetry in English as well. And then also there's even been research on Hmong American homosexuality, which has become an important topic for some scholarship as well, which was a topic that was never studied much before. Okay. Yeah, this is just an example. This is just a picture of some of the Hmong women and how they're advancing in Hmong society in America. Now, for transnational Hmong, we have also many topics that are important, such as transnational Hmong politics. Hmong are often considering themselves to be a stateless people, and so how does politics develop over transnational borders? About Hmong refugee experiences, about Hmong transnational marriage is another big topic. Transnational Hmong film and media production. So for example, a lot of the Hmong movies that are shown in the United States are made in Thailand. They come and make the movies in Thailand, and then they show them in the United States. There's also a lot of research being done on transnational Hmong history, about transnational Hmong family ties and clan ties, even transnational Hmong indigeneity, indigenous peoples. More Hmong people are taking on the identity of being indigenous, and even about Hmong shamanism and religion. So these are some of the transnational topics. And there's some pictures of some of the Hmong American filmmakers. in Thailand. So these are Hmong Americans who have come to Thailand to make movies that are then shown in the United States in Hmong language. And then there's also scholarship that relates to Hmong in Asia. So Hmong American research is not only about America, it's not only transnational, but also Hmong scholars are increasingly doing research about Asia as well. Such as there's a lot of interest amongst Hmong Americans about Hmong America and China. So what about the Hmong community in China? Hmong politics in Laos, there's a lot of interest in that. Hmong Asian history, so not history of Hmong in America, but other aspects of Hmong history. About the secret war in Laos history, and even about the Hmong and the Communist Party of Thailand. So these are some of the things that Hmong studies scholars are studying or doing research on in the United States. So it's transnational. Some it's about US, some is transnational, some is about Hmong in Asia. And this is a picture of Hmong in China, which many Hmong in America are now very interested in. This is some of the research I've been doing with the Hmong in the Communist Party of Thailand. And these are some pictures. Another interesting thing that's been happening is we have more Hmong scholars from other countries coming to America to study Hmong people in America. So you have especially Chinese scholars who are coming to study Hmong in America. So before, the researchers coming from America to do studying of people in other parts of the world, now we have people from China coming to study Hmong America. And we have increasingly, we've had at least a number of scholars that have come and done PhD projects on Hmong in America. And the other thing that's been changing is the way that the Hmong people identify themselves. So initially the word that we're familiar with is Hmong, but increasingly they've become, if you call Hmong people Miao in China is okay, but if you call them Mao is very inappropriate. It's very rude, and they do not like it, especially Hmong America or Hmong in Thailand or Hmong in Laos. But nowadays, some people are spelling the word Hmong, M-O-N-G. Those are the green Hmong. Some green Hmong will call themselves M-O-N-G. And then we also increasingly seeing that Hmong are using RPA, which is the Romanized script, to write Hmong language. And so many people will now spell Hmong H-M-O-O-B. And this is the way it's spelled in RPA. And this has become very popular amongst Hmong Americans. And many have changed the way they spell their names on Facebook or other places to be like RPA spellings. And there is even now, in some places, they're spelling it capital H, capital M, O-O-B. And the reason they're doing that is to try to make space for green and white Hmong to be together. So they use the capital M, the H for the white Hmong, the capital M for the green Hmong, and then you do O-O-B, which is the RPA. So now if you see capital H, capital M, O-O-B, you might wonder, what does this mean? But it just means Hmong. And this is the ways in which ideas about how to spell Hmong words, how to spell the word Hmong are changing in America. And RPA has become very, very popular amongst the Hmong community there. You can, on Facebook or, so many different places, you can see RPA being used now. This was a script that was actually developed in Laos in the 1950s by missionaries. And later on, it's become very popular because it just uses this. You could write it on Facebook or anything. It just uses the Roman, but it shows all the tones and everything if you learn the system. So this has become the popular system within the United States and around the world. Hmong and many other parts of the world also using RPA more and more. And we've also set up this Hmong Studies Consortium in the United States which I am coordinating in Wisconsin, but we also have members, Hmong professors in Minnesota and other parts of the United States and the world, and we're also even linking up with Chiang Mai University now with Ajahn Prasit Lipacha and other Hmong scholars in Thailand as well. So increasingly, we are also trying to connect internationally with Hmong. We were supposed to have a Hmong Studies conference in China too, but we had to cancel it because of COVID. But hopefully we will be able to do that in the future. And this is just an example of one of the conferences we did, Hmong Across Borders, in 2013. Different Hmong conferences we've done in various countries and in various times. This is one of the Hmong Studies events, many Hmong Studies events that are organized at different venues. This is at Concordia University at the Center for Hmong Studies. And we also are organizing a lot of research talks. So Hmong scholars come and give talks about their own research on various aspects of Hmong studies. Oh, here's after one talk, some of our Hmong studies scholars, and also some visitors. There's a Hmong Thai there who came to do a presentation, who's now a PhD student at Chiang Mai University. And various others, Hmong American scholars as well. And these are just some of the different talks that we do, posters, the changing roles of Hmong women in Wisconsin. This is another one about Hmong in Vietnam, different programs that they have. So we do all kinds of work. But the really important thing is I want to show you this. These are some of the posters of Hmong talks that we've supported in Wisconsin. And what you'll notice is most of the presenters are actually Hmong. And this is the big change, right? To see more and more Hmong scholars doing research about Hmong issues themselves. There's a decolonizing of Hmong studies to create more space for Hmong scholars to do research on Hmong-related issues. And we see this happening, and you can see these are all younger scholars who are, coming up new and are, doing a good job in various fields of Hmong studies. So in conclusion, we can say that Hmong studies in the United States is still relatively small, but it's expanding a lot, especially in recent years since the 2000s. And in various levels and various different fields. Hmong studies research in the United States relates to Hmong in America, but also transnational Hmong and Hmong in Asia. So it's not just limited to Hmong in America. It covers Hmong all over the world, really. Hmong Americans are doing an increasing amount of the research themselves, which I think is a great thing, and it's an important movement in Hmong scholarship. And we have more and more collaborations with Hmong scholars in China, in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, in various countries, and trying to create a stronger network around the world. So Hmong studies is really transnational and international field. And as I finally mentioned, we see increasing amounts of scholarship being done by Hmong Americans themselves as they gain higher and higher levels of education. And I think this is the really most important thing I want to emphasize. Okay, I think I'll stop here now, and if you have any questions, please, I'd be happy to take your questions.
Professor Ian, anyone have any questions? Any questions from online?
Are there any online questions? No? Yes?
One question.
In terms of management, I would like to ask that the ways that the U.S. government, especially local government, manage the conflict between Hmong and the American people. Is that the way that should support the Hmongs to live there peacefully, or or could you please compare between the management system between the U.S. and in China or in Thailand, which one should be more supported?
Okay, so in case you didn't hear the question was about, how does the government in the United States manage conflict between Hmong people and other Americans in the United States, and to compare that with systems in, let's say, China or Thailand. So thank you for that question. I would say that in the United States, the government does not play a very important role in managing conflict between Hmong and other groups. I mean, of course, everybody in the United States has to follow the same laws. So if somebody is violent with Hmong people or something like that, then obviously they would have to be presented with the law, and they would have to be punished in that way. But I would say that the more important way in which increasingly Hmong people, I would say, in the United States are standing up for their own rights. And they are increasingly advocating for reduction of racism. They're advocating for their rights in society. So quite often, if there are incidents such as when Hmong hunter was killed by a white hunter, they will have protests, they will write letters to the government, they will advocate, they will have workshops or conferences to deal with this. And so we can see that the Hmong people themselves are managing, because they have a lot of rights like any other American. They're American citizens just like any other American, and they have the rights to speak up for themselves. And so we see that happening. I think that we also see some of that happening in Thailand now. Many people may know that Thailand now has its very first member of parliament who's Hmong in Thailand, who's now a member of parliament. It's the very first time this has ever happened in Thailand in the last election. And we now have increasing numbers of Hmong getting involved in Thai politics, which previously was quite rare. But now we see this last election, there were Hmong involved in various political parties and other ethnic minority groups as well. And of course in China it's a little bit different, because in China you have the autonomous zones. And that there are some zones that are especially made up for Hmong people, and they have some particular rights in that area. So that's a different kind of management system. In the United States, Hmong don't have particular territories or special rights in certain places, but they rely on the general rights that they get through their citizenship rights in America to advocate for themselves. So hopefully that helps to answer your question.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
We have questions from online.
Jan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wonder
Okay.
why the word MEO, meow or meow, why it's not acceptable?
This is considered to be an insult, because these people, they do not, if you go back to the 1970s and 60s, it was very common in Laos and Thailand for people to refer to Hmong people as male. But this was never a name that they made up for themselves. This is not the name that they call themselves in their own language. And they consider it to be an insult. And often it was compared to like a cat, and so it's comparing it to kind of an animal, which is considered to be disrespectful. So this is why Hmong people do not like to have this name called to them. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah, I have some questions here.
How much influence do Hmong elected officials have in state legislatures in Minnesota and Wisconsin?
So I would say that the Hmong have quite a lot of influence. In Minnesota, they have a state senator who's Hmong, and they have a number of local politicians who are Hmong in Minnesota. In Wisconsin, they have also, they don't have any state senators, but they are an important lobby group because they represent a lot of votes, and they have a big voting bloc, and so they are able to meet with the governors, meet with the senior people, and to make their concerns known because they are well known in the state. They have a lot of people, and they are able to affect elections. If you think about Wisconsin, for example, the last election, there were the Democrats won by a little over 27,000 votes. Well, there's about 60,000 Hmong in Wisconsin. So you could say that the Hmong could effectively influence elections, very important elections in that state. So this is quite an important issue. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we also have, I think, one question from Zoom.
We have a question from Zoom.
I saw John Yan just now raising his hand. You have a question?
Yes?
Yep. Can we hear?
Can we hear the question?
Any chance the Hmong diaspora with their strategic resources and transnational network come back and strong in their home regional?
Yeah, so there are, I think it's a very good question. So yeah, asking about what about the Hmong diaspora coming back to their home country? Are they having influence there? And I think the answer is yes. You have increasing numbers of Hmong people coming from the United States back to Laos, to invest in Laos, to do businesses in Laos, to visit family members, to sometimes they are providing some of the capital to Hmong in Laos to do investments. I mean, increasingly they are having an influence on Hmong, especially in Laos, to a lesser extent in Thailand. And also, they're coming to also marry with women and men in both Thailand and Laos. And so then when they take their wives or husbands to America, then they will also have influence on their families. And so this is another important issue. I have a couple questions here. Let's see. Okay, actually, this is the one we already got, the one of the elected officials in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Yeah, thank you. Do we have other questions? Any more questions?
So I believe with the increase, Hmongs, right, working in academia, it leads to the empowerment, right, of the Hmongs themselves, both in America as well as in their home countries. And how about for transnational refugees, conditions are better as well?
Well, I think that the Hmong have become very good at advocating for their own rights, and I think that they're also interested in what's happening to other Hmong in other parts of the world. And so you can see a lot more Hmong transnational, a lot of Hmong people from China coming to the United States, a lot of Hmong from America visiting China, coming to Thailand, coming to Laos. The Hmong movies being made in Thailand and being showed in the United States. So I think that this increased transnational perspective is important for increasing, levels of awareness about Hmong populations all over the world, and also to help them to advocate for their own rights as people who have been disadvantaged in the past and even now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer. So, any other questions from the audience or from online before we end the session now? So I want to thank Professor Ian very, very much for a very interesting talk, right? I believe we all gained so much knowledge now from, the knowledge in terms of the Hmong experience itself, right? As well as, Hmong inside the academia, outside the academia, and how the academics understand the Hmongs and their stories. And so I think the talk is very illuminating, right, for giving the big picture for us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank also for your participation in the talk. And I hope you enjoy the talk. And I look forward to seeing your participation, right, in PBIC events in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.